Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sheepdog Project. Doc with you as always. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who sent me an email after the last podcast on how to pick a martial art and how to pick a martial arts academy. Wow, I was totally unprepared for that. 'Cause previously, I was getting about an email or so a week asking similar questions. And I actually thought that doing the podcast, doing that episode, would lower the number of emails that I was going to get. Now, that wasn't my goal. It's not that I have a problem getting the emails. It's that I thought, hey, a lot of you probably have that question. Maybe you haven't thought to email yet. You're a little bit nervous about it, but you have those burning questions, right? Apparently, a lot of you had those burning questions because I literally got flooded with emails from all over the country, and even got an email from one of our listeners in Australia, which was great, and took me a little bit of extra research to help them out. But really appreciate it, and I'm glad that everybody got so much out of it. If you're listening to this episode and you haven't listened to the last episode, go back and listen to it. I think it's worth your while, even if you're already taking martial arts, even if you have been doing so for some time. See if you agree or disagree with me, and email me and let me know. Again, always appreciate it. Especially appreciate our international listeners. Always want to hear from you guys. So far in the last month, I've heard from Scotland and I've heard from Australia. So still want to hear from some of those Eastern European countries. I know we've got listeners in places like Chad and all over Asia as well. So still want to hear from all of you. So shoot me an email if you get a chance. Let me know how you found out about the Sheepdog Project and what you like about it. Today, so this is going to dovetail nicely into the episode from last time. And the last time I was talking about how to pick what martial art you're going to go into, how to pick what academy where you're going to go study. But as I said, and as we've said multiple times, not every place is perfect. And you as a listener, as a sheepdog, probably want to take up that martial art for the purpose of being a good sheepdog, being able to defend yourself, defend your loved ones, defend those around you. That's not the goal of every martial arts academy. And they're not there unless you're paying however much it costs these days, and I don't know how much it is, for private lessons to specifically learn what you want to learn. You're going to have to learn that teacher's curriculum. And they know what they're doing, and they can't necessarily customize it to what you want. So they have to put butts in seats. That's how they keep the doors open, right? So we've had multiple conversations among the sheepdog cadre about this, and it's something I have my own opinions about. And what I like to call it is avoiding Gym-Jitsu, okay? Jiu-Jitsu is a great art, but too often it starts to become Gym-Jitsu, that I'm great on the mat, I'm great in my academy, maybe I'm great when I go to a NAGA meet or an IBJJF meet, but I've become too sport-oriented. And the same is true for anything, whether we're talking about taekwondo, kickboxing, kempo, whatever it might be. If you're practicing within the narrow parameters of how that's evaluated as a sport, then what you're doing ceases to become self-defense and it starts to become Gym-Jitsu, right? If you know, well, I've avoided doing head kicks because head kicks aren't allowed in combat. That means you're probably leaving yourself open to head kicks. Joe Rogan talked about it one time that after years of competing at a very, very high level in taekwondo, when he started doing kickboxing, he was getting lit up like a Christmas tree. Right? Because nobody just does leg kicks in taekwondo, so he was getting leg kicked all the time. And he had learned of that very relaxed kind of lean back, hands down karate stance, which against the wrong person can get your lights turned out completely. So I want to talk about that today, and I invited somebody who is uniquely qualified, United States Marine, police officer, high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in his own right, Sheepdog cadre, Jeffro Mullinex. Brother, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me out, Doc. Appreciate it. That's a heck of an introduction, too.
Well, it's all true.
And you got the first part. That's Tim's favorite part. The first part is Tim's favorite part.
Yeah.
And I used to leave it out all the time.
No.
The combat marine part.
You shouldn't.
Yeah. You know.
That's something to be uniquely proud of. And you know this about me is I used to, especially starting out in the Ranger Battalion, you know, we kind of saw the Marines as our competition, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot. I didn't fully come around to respect Marines until I deployed with one to Iraq as my communicator. And he basically appointed himself as my personal protection detail as well. So, that individual's name was Howie Wright, and he actually owns a barbecue joint in South Texas now.
Oh, nice.
Great guy. Gunny Wright.
Gunny Wright.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong.
No, you can't go wrong. So you and I talked about this. You have a similar philosophy.
Yes.
And it's something we talked about before, and something that you have always kind of kept in your wheelhouse in your fight game. Something that I was going down a bad road a couple of years ago, developing some good sport jiu-jitsu habits that were great for stalling opponents, great for keeping me from getting submitted, kind of sitting back and biding my time. And then at 4 minutes, 30 seconds in, turning it on and doing what I needed to do.
Explode and finally get what you need.
And they were also the things that would have gotten me curb stomped in the real world. And I don't do them anymore. And, you know, even though I know that I can get away with doing them in the gym, I know that the gym is not the ultimate test of what I need to do. No. You know, and sometimes I know that I have to sacrifice what might be the best jiu-jitsu for what's going to be the best for me in the long run.
Yeah.
Talk about how you approach that and what you've done to kind of keep yourself from becoming a Gym-Jitsu expert.
Well, the way I look at it, and you know, real quick, there's been a lot of debate on sport jiu-jitsu versus real self-defense.
Yes.
There have been a couple internet posts and stuff like that.
Right, and one recently. Yeah. You should probably talk about that first. One recently is what kind of got us onto this.
Yeah, right? You know, who was it? It was Tom DeBlas. Was responding to something that Hickson had said about how when Hickson and the rest of the Gracies started coming over to the States in the 80s, they were going to these karate dojos,
right,
and just putting it on these guys that had like 20, 30 years as a black belt, and just mopping the floor with them. And these guys, these karate guys, these black belts that have spent their entire life immersed in this art were just had the rug pulled out from under them. Like everything we thought was a lie,
right?
You know, and now they see it doesn't work. It doesn't work in a real situation. And then the blast came back because what Hickson had said was he's going to seminars these days and seeing jiu-jitsu black belts, seeing the rug pulled out from under them because his jiu-jitsu is something that they've never seen because they've been so immersed in the sport jiu-jitsu game. And then DeBlas came back and said that basically, and I agree with this, jiu-jitsu today is, we know more about jiu-jitsu today than they did in the 80s.
We certainly do.
You know, and the reason being is probably with the advent of social media and everything else, the ability to see things online, to come up with things online. But the neat thing is the caveat on that is I will see something, or we've seen things in the past that somebody comes out with and they try and brand it, and they try to give it a name.
Right.
And it's like, no, that's this.
This exact other move.
Exactly.
From years ago.
Yeah, and Robert Drysdale, who's doing a documentary right now on jiu-jitsu and how it came about, he actually uncovered, like when the whole leg lock game started, you know, the whole 10th Planet, the Death Squad, everything else started to come out. They're giving these things these wacky names and everything else. Oh, look what we came up with, this, that, and the other. Drysdale, through his research and going to Japan and digging and everything, pulled out templates and blueprints and photos of the exact same thing that this cat is saying he invented or he came out with from the late 1800s.
Right.
Yeah, it's just come full circle, and I think the way that jiu-jitsu has become so mainstream now, it's gotten watered down. Just like a lot of things. Yeah. It's become watered down, and there's people are seeing a market.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it, but to actually water it down and say that it's self-defense when you're teaching just basically sport jiu-jitsu,
Right.
is really pulling the wool over some people's eyes. And you know what? The gym owner, the instructor may not even know that he's doing it.
No,
because he's probably never fought. You know, his level of experience with it in a real situation is probably on the competition mat, where there are rules, there are rule sets. There's a ref there to take care of you.
Right.
There's usually table judges there to point stuff out to where, you know, how would that work in a fight?
Right.
How's your Eminari roll going to work on the concrete?
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
No.
A lot of what we do on the comfort of a mat with no shoes, within the gi or without the gi, it gives you a false sense of how some things might work. And the first time you do that in a parking lot with broken glass and over the parking, the concrete parking humps and everything else, that's going to feel a little bit different.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
And I agree with what you said, that anytime you get more people doing something, it's going to become watered down. I do think my perception, looking at videos from jiu-jitsu from the 80s and the early 90s, and looking at what people are doing in competition now. And again, I'm using competition as a frame of reference, so don't fault me for that just because I haven't seen Babalu in an actual street fight. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I think the peak of jiu-jitsu is a lot higher.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But because the base of that pyramid is so much wider, it's watered it out. And because so many people have run, it's like in the early 2000s when in the 80s and 90s, definitely in the 80s, tattoos were something that Marines, sailors, and soldiers had.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then tattoos became mainstream. They became cool. Right? They became something reality shows were based around.
Definitely.
Las Vegas casinos all of a sudden had tattoo studios in them, right? So now it became a big thing. And I can remember getting a tattoo in San Antonio and talking to the artist there about it, and him saying tattoo artistry has become extremely watered down. Like there's people doing it now who wouldn't have been able to even make a living at it 5-10 years ago, right? But at the same time, if you look at some of the amazing things that are, you see tattoos now, that the level of detail and artistry, you wouldn't have, that guy, you wouldn't have been able to find that guy in 1980 walking, because I can remember in Bakersfield, California, Tattoo Reds was this little hole in the wall place sandwiched between, I think, a pawn shop and a bail bondsman.
Perfect. And there was probably a liquor store on the corner.
I guarantee.
And the county jail was like 2 blocks away.
And here's the deal: is if when you walked in to get a tattoo from Red, if you brought in a little igloo cooler with a 6-pack, he'd give you a discount.
There you go.
Because he'd drink a 6-pack while he was. Can you imagine a guy drinking beer while giving a tattoo today?
Yeah,
you never see that.
You can't have any alcohol in your system when you're getting the tattoo. The guy giving it to you is hammered.
Yeah, and this guy had. There were no gloves. Nobody was using gloves, right? It was a totally different animal, and that's using that as kind of an analogy for what we've seen in jiu-jitsu. Again, tattoos have become mainstream, so more people are getting them, more people are giving them, right? Because jiu-jitsu has become mainstream, more people are seeking it out. So in towns. And this is one thing that I said in the podcast last episode, and I found in researching the email questions that I got. You write the name of any town. You type Meridian, Mississippi. You find it on Google Maps, and then you click nearby jiu-jitsu, and it populates, right?
Everywhere.
Right?
Yeah.
If you would have done that in 1980, 1990, even 2000, Nothing,
yeah.
Nothing would have come up.
Yep.
I mean, we weren't using those search engines necessarily then, but even, you whipped out the Yellow Pages. If I would have gone to the Yellow Pages in Savannah, Georgia, in 1985 when I was in 1st Ranger Battalion and looked for a jiu-jitsu place, had I known to do so, I probably wouldn't have found anything.
Yeah.
But I understand both sides of what's being said.
Exactly.
And and Hickson in a previous I think this was from actually a year or so ago, maybe even more. He said that he was actually dropped in one place to give a seminar, and he overheard the owner black belt talking to somebody else, and the student was asking questions about self-defense, and the black belt said, "That's not what we do here.
Right.
You need to go find a Krav Maga place or something like that."
Yeah.
And Hickson said that drove him crazy.
Yeah, because that takes away the whole basis of what it was founded for. You know, if you go back to the history of jiu-jitsu, it started in Japan. That was their samurai's modern combatives program,
right,
which got switched to judo due to politics and everything else. It just befuddles me. If you look at it from my standpoint, when I got into it, everybody was fighting, but back then it wasn't called MMA yet. It was called NHB.
Right.
No holds barred, volley tudo, anything goes.
Right.
And basically what we knew were the basics. We knew how to punch. We knew how to kick. We knew how to shoot a blast double, maybe a single leg. Yeah. You knew an arm bar. You knew the guillotine. You knew the rear naked choke, and maybe a triangle and a kimura. And that was it. And those things, if you look at MMA today.
You had the Shamrock toolbox.
Exactly. There were a few leg locks, straight knee bars, couple toe holds, maybe a straight foot lock, some heel hooks and stuff like that, but not the intricacy of what we're seeing today that total systems are based upon.
Right. And
these total systems that we're seeing, they're great for competition. They're great. And I'm not taking anything away from competition. I competed heavily in what you would call the sport jiu-jitsu realm. But when I competed, there weren't nearly as many promotions as there are now. And we have the Pro Submission series. You have your Fight to Wins, which I've been a part of Fight to Win and a couple others, to where it's ultimately for the submission itself.
Yeah.
Which those are great because, that's the whole goal is to finish the fight.
Yeah.
But then you turn and you flip it and you look, how many times have you seen a match at IBJJF between two high-level black belts finish in a submission? You don't. It goes the full 10 minutes because they have a game plan. They have a game plan to work advantages. I know if I do this and I sit here in 50-50 and hold him this long, I got an advantage because I went for a submission. He had to fight to get out of it. And now I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to sit here, let time run out and win. To where he's on his back, the other guy's on top in a dominant position to where if it were a fight, the guy on the bottom would just get his head. I'll use Trevor Prangley's term, turn him into soup.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's something that we see a lot today is people come in and they see a lot of the flashy stuff. They want to learn the Berimbolo. They want to learn this. They want to learn that. But then it's like, well, how's your basic jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Think about yesterday. Yesterday when we trained yesterday. We trained down here in Austin at Gracie Humaida. Coach Paulo's a little under the weather. Yeah. So Tim was there, and Tim graciously ran the class. He didn't really run it. He ran through the class. What did we start off with? We started off with basic wrestling.
Yeah.
Now, when we were drilling, when I thought what we were doing was a takedown defense from, it's hard to explain. But anyway.
It was a single leg defense.
Yeah.
When basically the single leg is kind of maybe 2/3 of the way finished already.
Yes. You're not driving to finish. Yeah. Man on top sits heavy. The whole time, that I was sitting there and I was working on you, I was like, if this was a fight, I'm not going to hold this. I'm not going to hold on to your leg.
No.
I'm not going to hold on to your leg while we're here on the ground like this. No. It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
It's going to be real bad. If you had tools, knives, a rock, anything else, I'd be in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really switched with me in the way that I train jiu-jitsu and a couple of my other friends that are law enforcement up there. We've really seen how sport jiu-jitsu has really went a total 180 from what we learned and what we were taught. Because like I was saying before, look at MMA today. How many times do you see people going for Eminari rolls? How many times do you see people getting in the ashi, in the honey hole, working a 10th planet system? You don't. What do you see that's winning fights? Strikes, kicks, simple chokes, arm locks, shoulder locks. That's it. That's what's winning a fight, and that's typically what you're going to see is going to win a fight out on the street as well. Unless if you're going against somebody that has no no tussling, I'll say tussling experience, grappling, football, anything like that, contact sports. Yeah, you might be able to do an Eminari roll and finish them with a heel hook or this, that, and the other. But you fight anybody that has any sense of body control or athleticism, it's not going to work.
No.
You need to have a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we're seeing with sport jiu-jitsu and the way it's taught is a lot of times there's a system, but really there's no rhyme or reason. When you're not learning takedowns, when you're not teaching takedowns, when you're not doing takedown defense. Used to be back in the day, every jiu-jitsu school usually had MMA tagged on it somewhere.
Right.
And you'd have at least somebody there that was trained in Muay Thai, kickboxing or something, teaching striking. Because I remember when I formally started my jiu-jitsu journey in the early mid-2000s, class went like this. You technique for about 30 minutes. You rolled for 30 minutes. Then you put your gloves on and you did some striking drills for about 30 minutes. And then it was vale tudo, anything goes.
Right.
5-minute rounds, just bashing the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
That's how it went. That's what, when we'd say, yeah, I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu, you'd come out of there with a black eye and this, and a bloody nose and everything else, where I don't get those injuries like I did before, because we're not beating the crap out of each other. And we really need to get back to that.
Well, the misconception that jiu-jitsu is only grappling that misconception in some academies has become reality.
Yeah.
And it is a misconception because if you look at how Helio trained his sons and how Hickson trained, how Hoist trained, and I mentioned it different even in the Gracie family. It differs because the one time I had it wasn't really a seminar. It was Hoist dropped into Fort Hood Combatives and taught a class.
Yeah.
And that class was all about teep kicks, striking, and setting up a single leg.
Yeah.
That's what it was all about. All right. And it was like, this isn't what, you go to a regular jiu-jitsu class now. He even said that. They're not showing this.
No.
And he said, but this is a mainstay. Yeah. You ask anybody who studied under a Gracie for any period of time, that kick to the hip for distance control is a mainstay and a really valuable tool.
Yeah.
And that's all he wanted us to concentrate on. Whereas I went to a Helson seminar, and it was here in Austin, and that was when sport jiu-jitsu was really taken off. And I don't know if it was requested of him that this is, what it ended up being a turtle seminar.
Yeah.
And you and I have had long conversations about turtle. We'll talk more about turtle as we get going, and for those of you that don't know, we're gonna circle back around to turtle. But when I say turtle, basically you can look it up on YouTube. The turtle position in grappling is I'm on my knees, on my elbows, head down. It's the same position that they told you in elementary school to get in if you got attacked by a dog.
Duck and cover.
Yeah, a duck and cover position, right?
Or if the Russians drop the bomb, get under the desk.
Right, you're covering your vital parts, okay? But we're going to leave that aside for now. We'll circle back around to it. But what I've been getting at here is that a lot of people have always said, well, that's the argument that we get. We see it a lot on the Sheepdog social media, and people say, well, you can't grapple, you shouldn't tell people to start off in jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu is just grappling. If you're just going to go to the ground every time, well, that's not what jiu-jitsu is.
No.
And if you study, like Greg Thompson, Team Rock, North Carolina, every class starts out standing up.
Yep.
Okay. Every class integrates a problem set, whether that's the hood of a car, a weapon getting introduced to the mix, a third party in, right? As third man in, as we used to call it in hockey, whatever it might be. There's some, in addition to rock solid foundation jiu-jitsu from guard passing to side control, whatever that might be. There's also real world applicable real jiu-jitsu in that. Okay. And he's a Hoist black belt. Yeah. He didn't start. Yes, he has a combatives system that he has integrated into the military. SOC P, right?
Yeah, it's solid.
But SOC P is yes, some of that's him, but yeah, that's based very solid.
Yeah.
Hoist blessed off on all that.
Yep.
Because that's all from the tree of Gracie knowledge flowing down. The difference being that Greg, and I'm not taking anything away from Greg because he's an amazing instructor and a hell of a nice guy, but where Greg innovated on that is being there in an environment where he had close interaction with all those special operations guys. Well, hey, how would this apply when you're wearing body armor? How would this apply when you got a rifle slung across you? So, okay, little tweak here, boom. We've taken what was already very solid foundation, and now we've turned it into, not only is it applicable in a real situation, it's applicable to your real situation. When I know each and every one of you has a carbine, a pistol, a knife, 175 pounds of lightweight gear, and everything else in a cramped space in the dark with night vision goggles on your forehead, this is how you're going to do it. And not everybody, recognizing that this, Greg set up shop at Fort Bragg, where he knows there's the demand for that. Okay. If you're studying in Boise, Idaho, or Dallas, Texas, the huge demand might be a bunch of people who want to compete in IBJJF. Right? People that are going to do gi jiu-jitsu and that's it. And those are the places that you go in that you hear the instructor saying things like, so you do this, hey, and that's 2 points right there.
Exactly. Yep.
And that, I don't know about you, but that gives me a little
Yeah.
If we're in the 2-week ramp up going into a Naga,
exactly, and that's
different,
and you've got the whole you've got the entire crew that's
yeah. How many of you are competing?
Yeah, how many
half
are
the class
competing?
raises your hands,
y'all
right?
come over here.
Yeah,
y'all going to work on this,
right? And that is important.
Yes,
when you're going into that, you want the school to be well represented, and if I didn't know. Certain things, if I didn't know what was a point or wasn't a point going into my first Naga, I wouldn't have walked away with gold.
Exactly. You have to know the rule set. And that's the thing. That's where it goes back to the whole rule set. You're fighting under a set of parameters that are set up to have a victor and a loser, to where on the street or in a real life situation, there are so many variables. More variables than a rule set. There are no rules. What works for you in the academy, how's that going to work? How's that going to play out on the street? And we see that a lot with people that come to the courses that have jiu-jitsu experience.
Yeah.
We've seen some high-level people show up.
That's when we see people bringing a heel hook to a gunfight.
Exactly. And what happens? They get a thumb in their eye.
Yeah.
They get suffocated. They just get ground into the dirt. And then it's like we talked about at the beginning, their whole combat sports experience or life has been a lie.
Yeah.
The rug has been pulled out from under them because that X-Guard doesn't work.
No.
That De La Hiva works for a minute.
Right.
Not taking anything away from these techniques and everything, because I'm sure a lot of times these things have spun off of an actual combat effective technique.
Yeah.
And
I think there's great value in learning all of those, even the weird stuff.
Even the weird stuff, because
I'm never going to be a berimbolo roller. But I still try it.
You got to recognize. You got to recognize it. You have to understand it to be able to defend it. And that's what we're seeing in the whole sport jiu-jitsu realm today. Is guys are getting so good with the foot locks and the leg lock series, they're getting good at the defenses.
Yeah.
Now what's winning? What's winning now is the basics. Look at Gordon Ryan. He's winning darn near everything off of a basic finish.
Yeah.
Which is usually a rear naked choke.
Right.
And they're setting it up by attacking the legs, but their basic jiu-jitsu is so solid that now it's come full circle to where they're using the who flung poo stuff to get to the basics.
Right.
And it's always the basics, the solid basics. And when we get so far away from the basics, and I see it too in my own training and stuff like that, whenever we get too far away from the basics, it's kind of like you come back to the basics, you're like, well, crap. I should have just been doing this all along. I should have just been working on this all along.
Yeah.
Yes, know the defenses, be able to recognize it, and then how can I use this to get to the basics?
And when it comes to the kind of the weird and wacky stuff, I think the importance in that, just like the importance in, the traditional jiu-jitsu player, the traditional jiu-jitsu, I can fight off my back all day long.
Yep.
I don't have a problem fighting off my back all day long. We know that in a street, that's not necessarily a good thing. Even though that worked in the early UFC when there are almost no rules.
Yeah.
He was in a gi on a semi-padded floor at least, not in a parking lot surface, right? The difference of if Dan Severn could have applied enough pressure to just bounce your head off the pavement.
Oh yeah.
That could have potentially been a different ballgame. Not taking anything away from you, Hoyce. But knowing how to be comfortable in those positions, and that's something Hickson preaches, be comfortable in any position.
Yep.
And it's not that we make fun of guard pullers for good reason, right? I'm never going to jump to guard. I'm never going to pull guard and say I'm gonna fuck you up from guard all day long.
I'm just going to flow with you.
But if something happened and I had my coffee in one hand and I was looking another direction and I get bum rushed and I end up on my back, it's important for me to not spaz there and know I can handle this situation. So again, that's traditional jiu-jitsu. That's how it reinforces something that's going to help you in a real situation is if you find, this is what I always tell people, if you find yourself there.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to deliberately berimbolo to defend somebody.
No.
But if one guy pushed me from behind and I end up piked on my head and I've practiced that, I can already be defensive and working an offensive game, still piked on my head as I move up to the position that I find more advantageous. 10th Planet, and I got some emails from some 10th Planet guys this week, and there's some great 10th Planet stuff out there. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But Eddie said when he started the whole 10th Planet system, it was with an eye towards what was going to apply in MMA. Mm-hmm. And I actually think it kind of went the other way because it kind of went into the weird, the leg locks that leave your face open type thing.
Yeah.
But Eddie is an innovator. Say what you want about Eddie Bravo. The guy is, number one, he's a legit BJJ black belt before he developed the 10th Planet system.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's an innovator. And the EBIs are amazing, and they are submission only. Yeah. And now the fact that he's gone to the combat jiu-jitsu, it's like he has enough of an eye to recognize we're developing bad habits. Put some 4-ounce gloves on and beat each other.
Exactly.
Because we need to get out of these bad habits.
Let's see what some slaps
do. And that's what's gonna keep jiu-jitsu moving towards the future and not getting stuck in those traditional martial arts ruts that were so terrible.
And that's what we've done up where I train at home at Travis Moore's at John's Gym. That's what some friends of mine.
Shout out to Travis Moore and shout out to the entire John's Gym family, of which I am also a member.
Yes, good people.
Yeah,
he's an amazing submission fighter and former MMA badass. What we've done, well, Robert, you've met Robert. He works for Temple. What we did was he and I, we trained originally at the same place when we started out. With using jiu-jitsu on the street and grappling on the street, it's a superpower. It's very effective. Mm-hmm. I've never not had jiu-jitsu work at work. Mm-hmm. It works. The basics work. They really do. No matter what's going on, revert to jiu-jitsu, establish a dominant position. If there's a weapon involved, like we preach, control the weapon and do damage at every opportunity.
And I'm gonna insert something and let you take off again. Most people in law enforcement, if they learned for 3 years only how to establish dominant position and never learned one single submission, that'd be 99% mission success in almost every situation they find themselves.
Definitely, because it's all about getting control.
Yeah.
It's all about getting control. It's not about finishing someone. It's about getting control. Well, what Robert and I did was we saw that we really got to talking about, the way things used to be, the way things are now. How do we want this to go in the future? And I think my work with the company, with Sheepdog and everything else, it reverted us back to the way we used to train. On Fridays, it's Vale Fridays. Anything goes. We will put on the 4-ounce gloves.
Thank you for giving up Vale Friday, by the way, to be on the show today. I appreciate it.
No problem, buddy. It's awesome. We put the gloves on, and all the other people are rolling, sparring. We're over there, and there's a couple other folks, a couple other first responders there that are putting on the gloves as well. And it is spread to some of the new jiu-jitsu folks that want to give it a try, want to give it a go, and they see that it's a total different.
Yeah,
it's a totally different animal.
Yeah,
when there are punches and kicks involved.
Yeah,
it will show you what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
and how what is safe in sport jiu-jitsu becomes dangerous.
Yeah,
in a fight, in an actual fight itself. And then we think about other things, and I do it when I'm rolling a lot now. I'll get to a dominant position and I'll just sit there and think. I'm like, well, yeah, this is a good spot right here. I'm just going to sit here all day till they give up, or my buddies that's on the way is coming, or I need to be looking out for who's coming next. Get to that dominant position and think, okay, this is what I would do from here. I would lay some bombs. I would throw some bombs, and then, let them move a little bit. Let them freak out, spaz, move, and then get to your next dominant position. It's all about, we say it's a chess match, and it is. It's cerebral and it's physical. And getting the two to work together, that's the hard part.
Right.
We're always thinking, set your traps out, set your traps out. And that, a lot of times, when we have too much of a game plan, when it comes to the sport realm, it's like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got to play until they get punched in the face. You have to just have basics in place that all caveat and all work together. Have that solid foundation for both, when you're training with your partners, with your team, and if it comes down to a real situation, what's going to work. A lot I see, and being at the last course that we did up in New Jersey with Colton Smith and Jim Miller, having those guys there, it was really good to watch, because both those guys are experienced MMA fighters. I mean, Jim Miller has more fights in the UFC than any other person, and he's still going at it.
Yeah,
he's got another fight in December.
Jim looks like when I'm talking to Jim, I feel like I'm talking to a kid too. I mean, I'm not Jim's a man.
Yeah,
but he looks so young to me.
Yep.
Especially for the amount of fights that he's had.
Exactly. He's remained healthy, because he's done it right.
Yeah.
But basically what we did was in New Jersey, we had something new. It was a beta test, a CQB course.
Yeah.
And basically when it came to the DT part of it, the combatives part of it, it was level 2, MACP level 2.
Okay.
All about the clinch.
Yeah.
All about the clinch drills and using the walls. And I think we're not seeing that enough when it comes to regular jiu-jitsu, because we've gotten away from the actual self-defense.
Yeah, we're in a big, wide open map, especially if you go in some place where there's a judo floor.
Yeah.
That there's not even the opportunity for any walls there.
Exactly. Yeah. If you have walls and padded walls, use the walls.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a fighter, because you got to think about the cage.
Yeah.
That cage is if you think about a wall is the earth going up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Having somebody against a wall, having somebody against a car, having somebody against a structure, any type of structure that's coming from the ground up is an extension of the ground.
Yeah.
Use it like the ground.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you say that, because when I was like a mid-level blue belt, and I was always thinking about my Gym-Jitsu and wanting my Gym-Jitsu to be better.
Yeah.
So when I went and competed, when I was rolling somebody, if we ended up against the wall, we'd stop,
go back to the middle.
Yeah, we'd go back to the middle. We do Vale Tudo rules, right? Go back to the middle of the mat.
Yeah.
Now, if I end up against the wall, I start thinking about the wall.
Yeah.
I will shoulder your face into that wall.
Exactly. Make it uncomfortable.
Oh, now, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, see if you can keep me in half guard while I am shouldering your face against the wall.
Yeah.
It's a totally different game.
Yeah. And a lot of the schools that we've used and that we've utilized throughout the Sheepdog courses, 9 times out of 10, they have either a partial cage set up as a wall, or the walls are padded. I mean, that place in New Jersey, Sakura, it's awesome, and it's they have all of it is walled up with mats, and then they're the safe spots and the non-safe spots where you can see a mirror behind the mat, and then don't use this wall right here. We don't want anybody going through it. Yeah. Pillars inside of schools.
Yeah,
those are awesome too. Think about it. Think about
the place that we went to in Portland.
Yeah.
And I'm kicking myself because I can't remember the name of the place. I'd love to give them a shout out. Had pillars, and they also had the guys that worked there would do morning CrossFit. Mm-hmm. So they had tires.
Yep.
And they had multiple different types of heavy man bags and stuff like that. So we would litter the floor with all this. So you had multiple obstacles.
Yes.
And a few guys found themselves pinned up against the tire, wrapped around the pillar, whatever it might be. And the pillars were just small enough that you could kind of work and leverage and kind of bend somebody around the pillar.
Yeah, bend them around the pillar.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something we used to do. The place where I started out, grapplers there, Coach John Moore. Sometimes we would, he'd just want to have fun with us, so he called it gang fight. He'd take half the room, half the class, put them on one side, half the class on the other. And it's like what you're seeing with some of these, some of the crazy stuff from Russia and the other places where it's like, it's not tag team, it's just two teams going at it. One guy gets out, one guy taps, it's 4 against 3. Then it's however many, but he had guns and knives. He'd throw out the rubber guns and rubber knives. It was like, all right, gang fight, here we go.
Everywhere I go in my training bag, I've got a rubber gun and a rubber knife.
Yeah, I've got a rubber gun.
Yeah. And that's one of the things. So this is probably a good point that we can kind of circle back, and I'm gonna close the loop on that turtle
on
thing.
the turtle,
and we can move forward, kind of talking about what we do as individuals to avoid the Gym-Jitsu thing. So when I was a blue belt, my Gym-Jitsu was getting very strong. Mm-hmm. I used to say my turtle was like the White Cliffs of Dover, that the waves could crash for hours,
solid.
And I'm not going anywhere.
No.
And it's like, if I'm ahead on you on points, and you escaped my guard, and I ended up on my side, boom, I'm going to turtle up, and guess what? You're just going to be frustrated for the last minute and a half. Yeah. And I'm going to walk away from this 7-4 match, and I won, right?
Exactly.
And wow, that would have got me killed on the street.
Yes.
And so I made a promise to myself that the only time you will ever see me turtle now is if I'm doing something, usually for one of the kids from the teen class is dropping in, one of the yellow belts or something is rolling with us as adults.
Let them work.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put my 185 pounds crushing weight on this kid and side control him.
Let them work.
I'll let them work some puzzles, right? And that's a puzzle that they can work.
Yep.
That I know I'm not gonna hurt them. They're not gonna do anything crazy in a spaz fashion and thumb me in the eye.
Yep.
That's a great puzzle for them to work. But when I'm going with somebody like you, and I find myself belly down, it's wrestle time.
Yeah, you got to wrestle. You got to get out of there
and get out. And Chris Perkins has been instrumental for me in showing me, hey, you're here. Well, there's his leg, Mike. Go get it.
Go get a leg.
Yeah.
His legs have to be somewhere near your legs, or an arm has to be somewhere near one of your appendages for him to effectively work you over with a turtle. Unless he stands up and just soccer kicks you. And if he stands up and starts soccer kicking, you need to get off the ground.
And not only has that helped me, that's made my game better and more applicable to the real world. If I do that, if I'm doing that against you or Tim or another high level guy, you negate that pretty quick. But if I'm doing that against somebody typically my level or below, most people are only used to somebody going for that single leg when you're starting from stand up.
Yeah.
So they see me rolling belly down, they're already moving in 2 steps ahead with their turtle attacks.
Yeah.
And, he's got my leg?
They're thinking about getting the back.
Right, yeah. He's got my leg? How'd that happen?
Drat.
And it works.
Yeah.
So it helps me out kind of on 2 levels there.
Yep.
But that's what I've done is I've made a conscious effort to myself of I don't turtle anymore. When I find myself in places where I've got a wide open face and he's got a free hand, this is not a place I want to be. So I will oftentimes, and you find yourself kind of in that position a lot, especially in bottom half guard.
Yeah.
That from a jiu-jitsu standpoint and a Gym-Jitsu standpoint, right? This is a pretty comfortable place for me to be. It's a comfortable
place
and I can stall and what else. But if this were for real, that elbow could make my life really miserable. It is a bad place to be.
Think of Randy Couture.
Yeah.
What he would do. He would just get somebody in half guard. He would get in their half guard, and he would sit on their leg and just pound the living crap out of them.
Yeah. You know? And for that reason, I've made it, if I get in half guard, unless I'm totally gassed like I was a couple times yesterday, it's like, oh, I'm in bottom half guard. Well, I need to not be here.
I need to do something.
Yeah. Whether it's, even, and that's, and avoiding that also makes your whole game better.
Yeah.
Because what you end up doing is instead of resting in a mediocre, semi-advantageous position, if you sacrifice that for a scramble, then you got to reach for more tools.
Yeah.
And again, knowing how to go for the arm in bottom half guard, important. Knowing how to do the traditional half guard escapes and sweeps, important. But don't have your mail forwarded to bottom half guard.
Don't have it so you're on your feet and they're already sending emails to bottom half guard bottom, because that's your game plan.
You've been there for so long.
I'm gonna pull guard and I'm gonna get half guard bottom. No,
and I find myself there a lot because that's my go-to. If that's always been for me my easiest mount escape. Is get my half guard
back.
But then that's not a rest point. I'm not in mount anymore.
You have to use that as a foothold to get to a better spot.
All you've done is you've moved. He's still on top of you.
Yes.
He still has at least one free hand. You've locked one leg. Guess what? You've also locked yourself down.
Yes.
Yep. So you're tied up now, and getting past that. And again, pointing out the fact that real jiu-jitsu is about that. One of the early things I was told about real jiu-jitsu is, and Tim emphasized this to me yesterday, because I was making the crucial mistake of I was escaping him and ending up in his guard, but not immediately going to pass that guard.
Yes.
So then he was guarding me and sweeping me and in typical Tim fashion, making me do it again and again and again. Right?
Again and again.
And it's those transition points, that's when you start getting into what differentiates blue belts from purple belts, is the pauses in those transition points.
There can be no pause.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to pause here. No, you don't pause there. You immediately go for the next thing.
We all get caught up into that. Yeah. We're all thinking, okay, here we are. Okay, I got to go from here. No.
And that's exactly why it's traditionally so easy for me to half guard somebody from mount, because if they do something that gets me in mount, they're usually pausing in that transition and heavy on one knee, and I can immediately do that. That by the time I'm doing it, they still thought they had, I got mount. What? Where'd my leg go? But it's not enough for me to stop there. I got to keep going. And trying to eliminate those little gaps, those little pauses, this works great for Gym-Jitsu, but it's going to get me killed on the street. Eliminating those things is what I've done. And that's what I tell when people say, what if I'm studying in a place that they don't want to put 4-ounce gloves on.
Okay.
They don't want me to pull a rubber gun and a rubber gun out or a rubber knife out.
Okay.
What do you say?
Here's what you do. There is a ton of information out there. There's good information. There's bad information. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you have friends that you're training with. Hopefully. If not, you need to start infecting the group.
Find new friends.
Find new friends. Infect the group and bring them to class.
Yeah.
Get them involved. Get your people training. Pull those folks off to the side if you're allowed to, especially at like an open mat or something. Start.
That's where you can make your money.
That's where you can really do good stuff is open mat. Yeah. Open mats are great. Open mats are your anything goes. Mm-hmm. Talk to your people. Get some 4-ounce gloves. Get the rubber guns. Get the rubber knives. If they frown upon it, buy some mats. Do it at home.
Yeah.
Get a grappling dummy. They're great. They're great to work your strikes on. Maybe not so much. You're not going to sit there and work a 10-planet leg lock series on a dummy. Although you could. What you need to do with that dummy, work on your dominant positions. Mm-hmm. Work on your transitions. Work on your strikes. All that good stuff. It doesn't even have to be a dummy. It could be a punching bag. Yeah. You can put that thing on the ground. Work on your striking. Find somebody, anybody that's willing to get out there and do that and get uncomfortable. Try new stuff. Get out there in some deep water. Beat the crap out of each other safely. Wear protective gear. Wear a mouthpiece. Wear a cup. Get some good gloves. Make sure you're not going, we always say 20 to 30% in the classes, and it inevitably they're going to start out at 80% no matter what. Mm-hmm. Find how quickly you can gas out whenever you're on your feet, you're punching, kicking, you're on the ground, and then you're back up. I really don't know anything other than do stuff that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't been immersed in it. It's exciting. Getting punched in the face, there's nothing like it in the world. My face eats punches pretty good. You can see that. My head looks like it's worn out about 4 bodies. At least that's what my pops used to tell me. Once you start getting used to, case in point, New Jersey course. We have a great group that comes out there called the Legion. If you don't know what the Legion is, look them up. They're a Jewish group. They're the Jewish version of Sheepdog Response.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, basically, that's what they are. During the clinch drills, those of you that are familiar with MACP know that Combatives Level 2 involves the clinch drills. The clinch drills basically are the instructor's there with the gloves on. The student starts in usually in the frame position where there's a forearm that goes across the sternum and grabbing the trap. The goal, there's a wall. The goal is for the student to get the instructor against the wall and get a good clinch position. The instructor, nothing but tearing them up. Pepper, just beating the crap out of them. Mm-hmm. One of the females, when the class was over, when the whole class was over, she came up to me and said, "Thank you for punching me in the face." This girl was probably late 20s. I've never been punched in the face before. I'm like, even on accident? No. I'm like, you're not made of glass, are you?
Yeah.
The more you do this stuff, the more you put trauma. It's like we talk about the folks that have that come to day 2 and they have the don't train bruises.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The I don't train bruises,
yeah.
the thumbprint, the perfect thumbprints on the biceps, on the inside of the biceps. Do this stuff, baby step yourself into it. Don't go in there like you're going for, one of the old school Pride all weight tournaments from back in the day. Go in there and slowly work into it. If I don't know what to recommend to look up on YouTube because there's so much stuff out there these days, especially when it comes to grappling and MMA. But look at the old stuff. Look at the stuff from when, like I said, Randy Couture was fighting. Dean Lister stuff is really good as well. Mm-hmm. Dean has a nice balance of the leg lock game. Mm-hmm. What works, effective basic jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And he fought MMA for a while too. They run a good program out there at Victory. Look at our stuff. Look at the stuff that we have.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of stuff that we don't have series, any instructionals like we do with the pistol and a couple other things. But Colton Smith puts out some good stuff on his Facebook. There's lots of good stuff out there. Just be careful with what you're looking at. Yeah. But basically, step outside your comfort zone a little bit. Make yourself uncomfortable just a tad bit. Just be safe about it, because having a broken septum or having your septum deviated and the cartilage broken right here and a cracked orbital there, and a cracked cheekbone right there to where when anything touches this cheek right here, my face blows up like that. That's not the way to do it.
No.
No. It's fun, but no.
No, you want to, and the way that we teach our curriculum, you know, and we didn't come up with the idea for this progression. You know, this is something that Jiu-Jitsu has been teaching for a long time. MacP and McMap teach it this way as well. The thing that most people, when they go into a Jiu-Jitsu place, a Jiu-Jitsu academy, and they start studying, they might walk, like the very first day that I walked in to take a Jiu-Jitsu class, they're like, okay, we're doing butterfly guard today. Well, I'm like, what's a butterfly guard?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, is that, on one hand, that's not the best thing for me to be learning. Okay. But they can't go, oh, new guy today. All right, we're starting with escaping the mount.
Yes.
We're going back to square one.
Yep.
And really progression-wise, so and what I did, my main concentration when I was a brand new white belt, and it took me about 6 months to figure this out, is I need to be doing all the escapes and sweeps.
Yes.
Because I'm always in bad position.
Yeah.
So I need escapes and sweeps.
Improve your position.
Yeah. I never watched any videos on submission. I only watched videos. When I would go home and watch YouTube or watch Kesting videos or whatever it was, or Roy Dean videos, it was escapes and sweeps, escapes and sweeps, escapes and sweeps. And then once those were working, hey, I'm escaping, I'm sweeping, then it was videos on how to do top pressure, how to pass half guard.
Yes.
Okay, so and think of your progression in your jiu-jitsu journey, your progression in your fight journey is exactly the same as if you're listening to this and you know nothing, you've never trained. And Jeffro walked in where you are right now and pushed you down on your back and mounted you. What would your progression have to be? First, you'd have to escape the mount, whether that's by going to half guard or by hip buck, trapping the arm, arm trap and roll, whatever that might be. Then, okay, now you're in a slightly different position, right?
Yep.
And now, maybe you did arm trap and roll. Now you're in his guard. So now you have to know how to do that, right? Yes. So the exact same way that progression would be in a real fight in real time, taking place in about a 5-minute period. Imagine that as your first year of jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Your progression. Because every new white belt comes in.
Drill 1 is your first year. We call that drill 1. Drill 1 is your first year. We call it drill 1.
Yeah. Arm trap and roll, pass the guard. That is a year. Pass the guard,
side control.
Right.
Achieve them out.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's a year right there.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's all you master in a year, if all you mastered, and I said this about law enforcement, but it's true too, is if you were the guy in your academy that all you could ever do is escape mount and end up in top side control,
that's golden.
You're a god.
Yeah.
You can win every street fight. From here to the end of the world. Because, hey, guess what? You can either rain elbows or you can pike up into push-up position and run away.
Exactly. You can make space and use a tool.
Yeah. Do you have to know every single arm lock that you can do from that mount?
Nope.
No. Do you need to know every lapel choke from that? No.
No.
If you got the position, the position before submission, right? And that's the problem that everybody comes in and they want to know all the sexy, cool submissions, and I want to this submission, that submission. Yeah. They get all excited on a day. Oh, we're doing guard pass again today. I'm not excited about that.
Dadgum, you need to be excited.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to pass a guard more than you're gonna have to apply, a north-south choke or a mounted triangle,
whatever that might be.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to circle back real quick. One time we've talked about 10th Planet a couple of times. One thing I was thinking is even some of the weird 10th Planet submissions, I could see if you were wrestling somebody in the back seat of a car.
Oh yeah,
I could see a twister coming into play there.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
Completely.
Yep.
That's totally something that would be applicable to you. But a question I got in an email, and I responded to it in my own fashion. I'll get your opinion on it.
Okay.
Guy who's been training at a 10th Planet affiliate for a while, and he said, and he asked this in all sincerity, not trying to be a smartass.
Yeah.
He said, hey, legitimately, I don't personally see the value of ever training in the gi. Why do you think I should? And I gave him my own opinion, and you're smiling, so I know you've got an opinion. And he was very receptive to the feedback that I gave him. But so for the people out there that are only going to no-gi, whether it's Tent Planet or at an MMA gym or a jiu-jitsu place, are like, I don't see the value in the gi. What do you think the value in the gi is?
The value of the gi is just endless. It's limitless. I can take that T-shirt that someone's wearing, wrap an arm up, and choke the living shit out of them with that doggone T-shirt. If I'm not learning the controls, the handles, the lockdowns of clothing for my job, that's a disservice for me. Yeah. Right now, it's getting to be the nice part of the year where everyone's wearing hoodies.
Oh, yeah.
Hoodies are wonderful tools to use against people. You have that nice drawstring. You have that hood. Oh, man, you can pull that hood. It's like putting a plastic bag over somebody's face. Think about it. Think about if you had to grapple Tim and you were wearing a hoodie. What he would do to you. He would mount you first.
I don't want to think
and he
about
would
that.
smother choke you with the hood on your face.
Yeah.
With his pec over your mouth. Yeah, that'd be a bad day.
And then you'd hear him pull out his cell phone and call in his lunch order.
Yeah, he'd call in his
while
food
he's
order.
beating you.
While he's beating you. Yeah, you need to train. You need to train with clothing. We all wear clothes. We're not running around naked with spears, furry boots, and bearskin underwear like back in the day.
Oh, and that's what Kesting said in one of his videos. He said, what if you get in a bar fight? Because if you're in a bar fight where both guys are shirtless, you were in the wrong bar.
Yeah, you're in the wrong doggone bar.
And then he caveated in the same way I will. So I'm not knocking anybody if that's if they have a lifestyle choice that entails that.
That's your deal.
But hey, realistically, if you look at that in the first John Wick movie, she's got a leather jacket on.
Yeah.
And as soon as she bites on that lapel, everybody who rolls knew what was getting ready to happen.
Yep.
It's like, and that's you're gonna have a coat on. You're gonna have a hoodie on.
Yeah,
you're gonna have something, and you need to know it from both ways. Not only how to use that against somebody, but know how they can use that against you.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to choose. What if you went to midnight mass and it's cold and you're walking with your family back to the car, and somebody jumps you and you've got your North Face jacket on, you don't get to say, time out.
Hold on, let me take this off.
I got a rash guard in the car. Hold on. You don't get to do that. So those are all tools. The friction is different. The holds are different.
The holds are way different.
Everything's different. Yeah. And I'm a believer that, the people that only roll in the gi, I think for practicality, absolutely have to do no-gi as well.
Exactly.
Because when you do no-gi, it's like, where'd all that friction go?
It's gone.
My game has completely changed.
Dang, I can move fast now.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired awful quick because all this fast movement. Case in point, yesterday, the young man that I had come, Orion, he's been training for about a year or so over at 10th Planet.
Yeah.
Yesterday was his first experience in the gi.
Really?
Yeah. And he
saw a totally different game,
he
right?
fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's a totally different game. And I love them. I love them both. There are times when I will get really caught up in usually it's right around the time that we're teaching a Sheepdog course and we're doing that solid week of a lot of no-gi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm loving the no-gi. I'm loving the feeling of grabbing a wrist as opposed to, trying to do a sleeve grip.
Yeah.
I'm loving the feeling of getting the back of the neck and really pinning up and clinching and doing my sweeps from there.
Exactly.
And I'll just be like, wow, it's like this. There's like this whole world that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah.
It makes, it's variety is the spice of life, and I think it's true for everything. It's
that's why you folks see a lot of us at the Sheepdog courses. We're fighting in jeans.
Yeah.
We're fighting in those 511s and those cools and everything else. Because that's what we wear.
You got to know. You got to know what it's going to feel like.
Yeah, that's what that's what we wear. That's what I wear to work is 511s, and 9 times out of 10 when we're out and about, not in Texas so much because it gets pretty daggone hot. You're going to be wearing jeans.
Yeah. No, good. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to be prepared to do it. If it's something you're going to wear, if you're John Danaher and you're only going to wear
a rash guard.
Then okay, but you still need to roll against people maybe wearing a gi.
That's right,
or that they're wearing regular clothes, whatever it might be. You're good. Yeah, because again, it's not only what it feels like on you, it's what it feels like on your opponent.
Exactly,
it's both ways.
And that gi is like Velcro, man.
Yeah.
You get two rough geese going, and there's no real movement if you're on bottom.
Yeah.
If you're on bottom, you're stuck.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you are an aspiring MMA fighter and you're one of those people who's thinking about putting on the plastic suit to cut weight, put on a gi.
Put on a gi. Yeah, put on the doggone gi and roll.
Yeah.
Do wrestling drills.
Put on a gi and roll, and then midway through class, change into a fresh gi so you can sweat that one through too.
So you can sweat that one.
And it's a totally different game.
I've seen guys when I went to Worlds, no gi. Worlds no gi.
Yeah.
Long Beach in the Big Pyramid. Guys that were cutting weight, because IBJJF, you weigh in when they call your division. If you're not on weight, you get DQ'd, buddy.
Okay.
There were.
See, that's realistic. I love that.
Yeah,
that's realistic.
Say what you want about IBJJF.
Yeah.
You know, their rule set is put in place or whatever. These cats were in the shower of the locker room.
Yeah.
With a coach. They had gis on over big hooded sweatshirts, sweatpants, had the shower cranked up, hot steam. Mm-hmm. And that coach was just mad as hell at these guys. But that's what they were doing to get their weight off.
Yeah.
Yeah. While he's like, you're a disappointment. You're a disappointment to your school.
Man.
But I mean, yeah, get out there and sweat.
You know, and that's probably that's probably a good thing for us to maybe finish up on. And we've talked about this before, and I'm a firm believer, and I know you are too, that competition is good.
Yeah,
going to these competitions is a great thing. Okay, and you know what? If maybe you're not ready for that, then your competition can be something like finding out another gym in town that has open mat on Saturday or Sunday, and that's your competition.
Exactly.
Because you're getting out of your academy, you're fighting a face you've never seen before, you don't know what their game is, and then it becomes a little bit more realistic.
Yeah. It's not like it was in the day, what do they call it, créancier or whatever, whenever it was taboo for you to go to another school because we don't want them to see what we know. Everybody knows the same crap.
Yeah, it's not that way. It's none of my instructors have ever had any problem with
everybody
me
nowadays.
cross-pollinating.
It's everybody it's a big happy family.
But when it comes to competition, what do you think? Do you think somebody should go, all right, I'm gonna compete in a month, so I'm gonna cut down to whatever weight division, or do you think, hey, you know what, make this more real, go in there and fight against guys, get on the scale and see what you weigh and just do it.
Get on the scale. That's one less stressor.
Yeah.
That's one less stressor to worry about. You're going to have, if you don't compete regularly, you're going to already be stressed to the gills.
Yeah.
Throwing that weight cut in there is just going to make it even worse. 9 times out of 10, when guys are going to cut weight, they're going to cut too much weight. They're going to feel like crap. Their performance is just they're going to be gassed all day long. So why not go in there at a good weight? You didn't cut weight. Chances are everybody else there did cut weight, so you've got that little bit of advantage. You've been well fed, well hydrated throughout the whole process, and you can go in there and, like you said, whatever your walking around weight is, guess what? That's your fighting weight.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because the question is your dream in life to get a NAGA gold medal as a blue belt, or to continually improve your game and be the best black belt you can be 10 years from now?
Exactly.
So if the latter is your goal, and I know that that's my goal, and was my goal as a blue belt, still my goal as a purple belt. So it's I don't, the 50-meter target I don't need. I don't need those wins now. NAGA gold medals in white belt and blue belt. What do you call a world champion white belt? A blue belt?
Yeah, exactly.
The world champion. There is such a thing as a world champion white belt.
Yeah.
Well, that guy's a blue belt. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Do you want that hanging on your wall, or do you want that black belt in your gym bag someday? Because you're going to get there better and more efficiently if you challenge yourself more now. Yeah. And what do the high-level black belts do? They compete in absolute.
Yeah.
Right? They don't care what weight they're rolling at. they compete in absolute. And it's a little bit easier for me to say this too, because I compete in the over 50. So in the over 50, they always end up combining our weight classes anyway.
Yeah.
So, because there's never enough of us.
You'll have,
so they end up lumping
like
us all together.
175 and under, 175 and up.
Yeah, basically. It ends up being something to that effect.
Yeah. And you'll see a huge disparity between.
I do know one guy who has to cut who's a brown belt, and he walks around. He's a very muscular guy, and he walks around kind of just in super heavy. So he cuts down to heavy because he goes, if I compete in heavy, and he goes, I'm going against sumo wrestlers in gis.
Yeah.
And he goes, and there is no, he goes, I make one mistake and end up in bottom position.
It's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
He said, I'm in the sweat lodge.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm losing 4 pounds, so I don't have to deal with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
Brother, thank you for being here today, man. I think we shared some good information.
Thank you.
I hope people will take it to heart.
Yes, I hope so, especially my first responders out there.
Yeah.
Firefighters, EMS, you need to know this crap too, because a lot of times you might get there first, or what is a routine EMS call may turn out to be a combative, somebody hopped up on PCP real fast. And say what you want, tasers and spray and all that stuff, it doesn't work on everybody, but I'll tell you one thing that does work on everyone. Blood flow restriction to the brain.
Yeah.
That works.
That works on everybody.
Like a champ.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not condoning it, because there are departments out there that don't like that. But when you have a use of force policy like I have in my department, where it's pretty much what DPS has, it's you do what you need to win the fight.
Oh, by the way, and on that subject, and I've said this multiple times in courses and on the show, if you work for a department, if you're a law enforcement first responder, and you work someplace that will not allow you to do a rear naked choke because they think you're going to kill somebody, you email me, and I'll come out there, and I will talk to your superiors. I will testify in court as to what happens when you do a rear naked choke, as to why it's not life-threatening, as to why it is a safe method of holding somebody still and or making them go unconscious.
Yeah.
Okay? And are there bad things that can happen? Yeah, and I can do a whole show on that. But if you do it properly and slowly and deliberately, patiently, without wrenching the neck from side to side, you're not going to cause any injury to the spinal column. You're not going to cause a vertebral artery dissection or a carotid artery dissection if you do it properly. And it's actually very, very safe for the first responder and for the perp as well.
Yep.
To do it to do a rear naked choke.
Every time I've been choked out in training, when I come to, I feel like I slept for 8 hours.
I don't know about that. I get this weird twitch when I wake up.
I do too, but
I don't like that.
But I feel like I've been asleep because I'm like, I wake up. It's been a long time since it happened, but the last time it happened, gosh, I think it was like 5 years ago. I came to and I was like, man, I'm gonna be late for work, and I'm like, wait, no, I'm grappling.
Yeah, I don't know where I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you feel like somebody was talking through a tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us on the Sheepdog Project. Make sure to go to our website, sheepdogresponse.com. Check out all the courses that we have upcoming. Check out everything for sale in the Sheepdog store. Counting down those days to Christmas, so you got to get your Christmas shopping done. Do it now. Great thing to get somebody and get for yourself is enrollment in a Sheepdog course for next year. And all of your fight needs, your tactical needs, your firearm needs, your medical needs, we have at the Sheepdog store at sheepdogresponse.com. I am going to close today with a quote from the author John C. Maxwell, who said, "A lack of realism in the vision today costs credibility tomorrow." Not only can it cost you credibility, everybody, but it could cost you your life. You need to have realism in your vision, realism in your training every single day. Do that. Remember that. Until next time, be a sheepdog.
You have been listening to the Sheepdog Project. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sheepdog Response. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent any larger entity, public or private.